All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're going to break down the really powerful philosophy of Admiral William H. McRaven, something he learned over 36 years as a U.S. Navy SEAL. It all comes from his book, Make Your Bed, which actually started as this incredible commencement speech that went viral. It's basically a guide to changing your life and, hey, maybe even the world, by starting with small, disciplined acts.
Now, I know what you're thinking. That sounds way too simple, right? But McRaven isn't just giving out cleaning tips. This one little action, it's a huge metaphor for a whole philosophy on how to tackle your life, your problems, and your biggest goals.
Think about it. In the middle of the chaos of SEAL training, making the bed was the one thing they could control. When you do that first thing in the morning, you get this little hit of pride, and it kind of pushes you to do the next thing, and then the next. And by the time you go to sleep, that one small win has snowballed into a whole bunch of wins. It's like this ripple effect of accomplishment. So yeah, that brings us to our first big idea, the ripple effect. Let's really look at how one tiny, disciplined habit can build momentum for your whole day. You know, what's so wild about this is the contrast it shows. McRaven tells this amazing story about seeing Saddam Hussein's bedroom right after he was captured. And the bed, a total wreck. It's like a perfect snapshot of a chaotic, undisciplined mind. It's such a small detail, but man, it says so much when you put it up against the ironclad discipline of a Navy SEAL. One is about control. The other, well, the total lack of it. So this all kind of boils down to one big question for you. What is that one little thing you can do every single day to bring some order and kickstart your own success? It doesn't have to be the bed, of course. It's just about finding that one keystone habit that gets the ball rolling for everything else. And that leads us perfectly into our second theme, because before you can go out and change the world, you have to master yourself first. This whole section is about that internal mindset, that grit and resilience you need to face whatever life throws at you. This quote comes from a brilliant story from SEAL training. McRaven talks about this one recruit who was pretty small, and this giant instructor just constantly gave him a hard time about it. He'd even hold up the guy's tiny swim fins and just mock him, saying he'd never make it as a SEAL. But here's the thing, the recruit never, ever backed down. He'd just look that huge instructor right in the eye and say he could do it. So finally, the instructor leans in and just whispers to him, "Prove me wrong." And you know what? He did. That recruit crushed it, proving to absolutely everyone that it's not about your physical size, it's about the size of your heart and your will to succeed. Okay, so let's talk about failure. In SEAL training, if you didn't meet the standards for the day, maybe your run was too slow or you missed a few pull-ups, you got invited to the circus. And trust me, this was not fun and games. It was 2 more hours of the most brutal exercises, all designed to just wear you down until you quit. But here's the paradox, the twist in the story. McRaven and his swim buddy were always at the circus because they just could not nail the long ocean swims. But while it was supposed to be a punishment, they started to realize something pretty incredible. All that extra conditioning was actually making them stronger. The thing designed to break them was building them up. After weeks of this punishment, they didn't just pass the 5-mile swim. They finished first. And this just perfectly captures McRaven's whole point. Sometimes you gotta take some big, calculated risks to get big rewards. The Slide for Life obstacle gave you 2 choices. You could go possum style, slow, super safe, hanging under the rope. Or you could risk it and go commando style, head first, way faster, but also way more dangerous. But you can't be a risk taker all on your own, which brings us to our third theme, the absolute critical importance of your team and finding strength in the people around you. 7. That number is everything. That's how many guys are in a SEAL boat crew. During training, these 7 men had to haul their super heavy inflatable raft absolutely everywhere. They had to paddle as one, run with it as one. They had to completely depend on each other. If just one person slowed down, the whole team paid the price. So who's in your boat crew? McRaven really drives home that we all need people to help us paddle when we're exhausted or sick. He learned that the hard way after a really bad parachute accident almost ended his entire career. It was his wife, his buddies, his colleagues, his boat crew that got him through it. Asking for help isn't a sign of weakness. It's essential to get through life's roughest waters. All right, now we're going to talk about the really big stuff, the impossible obstacles. This part is all about getting the right mindset to face down those moments that feel completely overwhelming. So let's talk about the sugar cookie. Sounds kind of nice, right? Well, it wasn't. If you failed an inspection, you were ordered to run into the freezing cold ocean, then go roll around on the beach until you were covered head to toe in wet sand. And you had to stay like that all day long. And here's the kicker. Sometimes you got sugar cookied for a real mistake, but other times it was totally random. And that was a lesson. Life isn't fair. Things will knock you down for no good reason. You can either complain about it and be a victim, or you can just accept it, learn what you can, and drive on. I mean, there is no darker moment in SEAL training than Hell Week, especially the night they spend in the freezing mudflats near Tijuana. You're exhausted, you're freezing, and the instructors are walking around offering you hot coffee and a warm fire if you'll just quit. All you have to do is say you're done.
Just as a few guys were about to give up, this one lone voice just cuts through the misery. Somebody started singing, totally off-key. And then another guy joined in, and then another, and pretty soon the whole class is singing together. In that moment, they found hope in each other. That one little act of defiance gave them the strength as a group to get through the night. It just shows you the incredible power of hope.
This is such a great lesson for facing your fears. During their night swims, the SEALs knew there were great white sharks in the water, but they were trained not to panic, not to swim away, because that just makes you look like prey. Nope, they were taught to stand their ground. And if that shark comes for you, you punch it right in the nose. It's an amazing metaphor for dealing with any bully in life. Don't back down, face them with courage. Which brings us to the final and maybe the most important lesson of all. Right in the middle of the SEAL training compound, there's a brass bell. All a trainee has to do to quit, to make all the pain stop, is ring that bell. So this last lesson is simple. Never, ever ring the bell. McRaven tells the unbelievable story of Army Ranger Adam Bates to really drive this point home. At just 19 years old, Bates lost both of his legs in Afghanistan. Lying there in a hospital bed, he couldn't even speak, but he signed to McRaven, "I will be okay." A year later, he's standing on prosthetic legs, challenging his fellow Rangers to a pull-up contest. Bates just flat out refused to let his situation define him. He never rang the bell. And that right there is the ultimate lesson. Ringing that bell is a choice. It's a decision you will regret for the rest of your life. The stories of Adam Bates, those guys in the mudflats, and every SEAL who made it proves that we all have this incredible strength deep down inside us. The power to keep going is there. We just have to choose not to give up. So, I'll leave you with this last lot to chew on. Think about your goals, your challenges, your dreams. What's one area in your life where you feel tempted to quit? How can you use these lessons and decide, right now, to recommit to not ringing that bell?